Captain Tajin stared out the shuttle window as the Galactic Academy came into view. The massive space station gleamed like a silver jewel against the black of space, its ring-shaped structure rotating slowly to create artificial gravity. After 5 years of diplomatic service on Earth, this was his first assignment off-planet. "First time at the Academy?" asked the shuttle pilot. "Yes," Tajin replied, adjusting his Blue Earth Diplomatic Corps uniform. His stomach felt tight with nerves. The shuttle docked with a gentle bump. Tajin grabbed his bag and followed the other passengers through the airlock. The main hall of the Academy was huge, with a ceiling that stretched up at least 5 stories. Beings from all across the galaxy moved about, some tall and thin, others short and bulky, some with multiple limbs, others floating above the ground. Tajin checked his data pad for directions to the welcome meeting. As he made his way through the crowded halls, he noticed something odd. Many of the aliens looked at him with curious expressions. Some even moved aside as he passed, as if giving him space. The welcome hall was already full when he arrived. Rows of seats faced a large stage. Tajin looked for an empty spot, but a tall blue-skinned official stopped him. "Humans sit in the back," the official said, pointing to the last few rows. Tajin frowned. "Why?" "Academy rules. Seating is by species category." Confused but not wanting to make trouble on his first day, Tajin made his way to the back rows. There he found another human already seated, a woman with short black hair wearing the same blue uniform. "You look confused," she said as he sat down beside her. "I'm Hana, Earth Diplomatic Corps, 2nd year. Tajin, 1st year. Why are we sitting all the way back here?" Hana smiled. "Look around. Notice anything about the seating?" Tajin observed the room more carefully. In the front rows sat massive beings with thick armor-like skin and powerful limbs. Behind them were slightly smaller but still impressive aliens with sharp claws or multiple arms. Each row seemed to contain beings of decreasing size or obvious physical strength. "They're arranged by physical power," he guessed. "Exactly," Hannah said. "The Krell are in front. They can lift 10 times their body weight and have natural armor. The Vex behind them have acid blood and razor claws. It goes on like that until you get to us." "But that's ridiculous," Tajin whispered. "This is an academic and diplomatic institution, not a fighting arena." Hana shrugged. "The galaxy runs on old traditions. The strength hierarchy is one of the oldest. Every species is ranked based on their physical abilities and combat potential. Humans rank near the bottom, so we get the back seats. Has anyone ever challenged this?" "Not really. Most humans just accept it." A loud tone silenced the room. A massive Krell stepped onto the stage, his greenish skin plates shifting as he moved to the podium. "Welcome to the 527th year of the Galactic Academy," the Krell announced, his voice deep and powerful. "I am Headmaster Gorv. You are here because your species have proven worthy of membership in the Galactic Alliance." As the headmaster continued his speech, Tajin leaned toward Hannah. "How can they judge an entire species this way? Humans have survived wars, disasters, and our own violent history. We're not weak." "It's not about being weak," Hannah whispered back. "It's about knowing when to show your strength." Something in her tone made Tajin think there was more to the story. The headmaster's voice boomed through the hall. "Tomorrow begins the annual strength assessment, where each species' ranking is confirmed." Tajin noticed several humans in the back rows exchange knowing looks. One older man with gray at his temples caught Tajin watching and gave him a small smile. "There's something no one is telling me," Tajin said to Hana. She patted his arm. "Let's just say there are advantages to being underestimated, and reasons why humans always sit at the back." Tajin settled into his seat, watching the powerful aliens at the front with new curiosity. Perhaps there was more to learn at the academy than just diplomacy. The next morning, Tajin walked into the massive assessment arena. The circular space was divided into different testing stations, some with heavy weights, others with complex puzzles, and some with what looked like fighting rings. "Impressive, isn't it?" a voice said beside him. Ta Jin turned to see an older human man with streaks of gray in his dark hair. "I'm Sung Ho, human observer for the assessments," the man said, extending his hand. "First time." "Yes, I'm Ta Jin. What exactly happens here?" Sung Ho gestured around the arena. "The annual strength assessment. Every species sends champions to complete these challenges. The results determine each species' ranking in the galactic hierarchy for the next year." They watched as a massive Krell lifted what looked like a small shuttle craft over its head. The crowd of Krell observers roared with approval. "That's Durg," Sung Ho explained. "The Krell champion. They've held the top position for 300 consecutive years." "And where do humans rank?" Ta Jin asked, though he suspected the answer. "Near the bottom. Usually between 87th and 92nd out of 103 species." "That can't be right. Humans may not be the strongest, but we're resourceful, adaptable." "Those qualities aren't measured here," Sung Ho interrupted. "This is about raw strength, speed, and combat ability." A loud announcement echoed through the arena. "Human representatives, please report to Station 4 for initial assessment." Ta Jin was surprised when Sung Ho guided him toward the station. "Wait, am I participating?" "All new Academy members take part. Don't worry, just do your best." At Station 4, a bored-looking official with purple skin and 4 arms handed Ta Jin a heavy metal bar. "Lift this as many times as possible in 2 minutes." Ta Jin took the bar. It was heavy but manageable. He began lifting, pacing himself carefully. "Go faster," Sung Ho whispered, "but not too fast." Confused by the instruction, Ta Jin slightly increased his pace. After 2 minutes, the official recorded his result: 43 lifts. "Acceptable human performance," the official said without interest. As they moved to the next station, Ta Jin saw Hannah completing a reflex test. Her movements seemed deliberately measured, neither too fast nor too slow. "Is it just me, or does it seem like she's holding back?" Ta Jin asked. Sung Ho's eyes crinkled with amusement. "Perceptive. How about we watch the Krell for comparison?" They moved to where Durg was completing a combat simulation. The massive alien moved with surprising speed, destroying holographic enemies with powerful strikes. "Amazing," murmured Ta Jin. "Now watch this," Sung Ho said, pointing to a screen showing previous assessment footage. The video showed a human woman in an emergency evacuation test. As the timer counted down, she moved with incredible speed and efficiency, far beyond what Ta Jin had seen from any human today. "That's Ambassador Qi," Sung Ho explained. 10 years ago, there was a real emergency during her assessment, a pressure loss in the chamber. The system didn't register it as real, but she did. "She moves completely differently than the humans today," Ta Jin noted. "Exactly." Sung Ho's face grew serious. 5 more stations to go. Remember, good effort, middle results. "You're telling me to underperform deliberately," Ta Jin said, understanding dawning. "Why?" "Sometimes it's better to be underestimated," Sung Ho replied with a small smile. "The Krell have been at the top for 300 years. Ask yourself, who actually runs most of the Alliance diplomatic corps and trade networks?" "Humans," Ta Jin realized. "And where do we always sit?" "At the back, where we can see everyone, study everything, and no one pays us much attention." Sung Ho patted Ta Jin's shoulder. "Time for the reflex test. Remember, good, not great." As they walked to the next station, Ta Jin noticed the Krell champion staring at the humans with dismissive amusement. For the first time, Ta Jin wondered if perhaps the joke was actually on them. After the assessments ended, Ta Jin couldn't stop thinking about what Sung Ho had said. That night, he used his Academy access codes to search the historical database. The Academy library was empty except for a few late-night researchers. Ta Jin sat at a terminal in a quiet corner and began searching for records of human performance in past crises. At first, he found nothing unusual, just the same low rankings year after year. But then he noticed a pattern. Anytime there was an actual emergency, a station malfunction, a diplomatic incident, a rescue mission, humans were often mentioned in the reports for their unexpected contributions. One file caught his eye. Incident Report. Krell Transport Disaster, Year 2387. Ta Jin opened it and read about a Krell ship that had suffered catastrophic damage from an asteroid collision. The first responders were a small human medical vessel that happened to be nearby. The report noted, despite their physical limitations, the human crew worked continuously for 72 hours without rest, rescuing 89% of the Krell passengers. Several humans sustained serious injuries, but continued working despite medical advice to stop. This behavior appears inconsistent with their species assessment profiles. Ta Jin found more reports with similar observations. In one case, a human diplomat had carried an injured Vex twice his size through a burning building. In another, a human engineer had worked without sleep for 5 days to prevent a station core breach. Finding anything interesting, Ta Jin jumped. Ji Woo, Earth's senior ambassador, stood behind him. Her hair was streaked with silver, but her eyes were sharp and alert. "Ambassador," Ta Jin said, standing quickly, "I was just doing some research on human emergency responses," Ji Woo observed, glancing at the screen. "Sit down, Captain. You're not in trouble." Ta Jin sat, and Ji Woo took the chair beside him. "You've noticed the pattern," she said. It wasn't a question. "We deliberately underperform in the assessments," Ta Jin said. "But in real emergencies, humans show capabilities far beyond our official rankings. Why keep this secret?" Ji Woo's face grew serious. "How much do you know about Earth's early contact with the Alliance?" "Just the basics. First contact was with the Andorians, followed by invitation to join the Alliance. Standard diplomatic process." Ji Woo shook her head. "Not quite. When the Andorians first studied humans, they were deeply concerned. They observed our history of warfare, our rapid technological advancement, and our unusual biology, particularly our endurance and stress responses." "I don't understand," Ta Jin said. "Most species in the Alliance evolved as either apex predators or specialized defenders. Humans evolved as persistence hunters, not the strongest or fastest, but able to keep going long after other species would collapse from exhaustion. We can adapt to almost any environment, ignore pain when necessary, and become more focused and efficient under pressure." Ta Jin thought about this. "So the Andorians saw us as a threat." "They saw our potential," Ji Woo corrected. "A species that becomes stronger in crisis rather than weaker. A species that thrives on challenge. The Alliance had never encountered anything like us. So this ranking system, a way to keep us in check without offending us. And we let them believe it works." Ji Woo smiled slightly. "It's been Earth policy for 200 years to maintain our position at the bottom of the strength hierarchy. But why? We could demand more respect, better positions. Captain, in your military training, what's the most valuable position in any room?" Ta Jin thought for a moment. "The position that gives you the best view of everyone else while drawing the least attention to yourself." "Exactly," Ji Woo said. "The back of the room. The species at the front are always watching each other, competing. Meanwhile, humans run 40% of Alliance diplomatic missions, manage 60% of interspecies trade, and have representatives on every major council." She stood up. "Come to my office tomorrow. There's more you should know." As she walked away, she added, "And Captain, the assessment results are being announced tomorrow. Try to look appropriately disappointed with our ranking." Ta Jin stared at the screen, seeing the Galactic Alliance in a whole new light. The humans weren't at the bottom. They were exactly where they wanted to be. The next morning, Ta Jin stood in the Great Hall with the other Academy members as the strength assessment results were announced. As expected, the Krell maintained their top position, with Durg accepting the honor to thunderous applause from his kind. And finally, the announcer said, ranking 89th out of 103 species, humans. A few chuckles rippled through the crowd. Ta Jin glanced at his fellow humans, who wore expressions of mild disappointment or simple acceptance. Now that he knew the truth, their acting impressed him. Later that day, Ta Jin reported to Ambassador Ji Woo's office as instructed. The room was simple but elegant, with a large window overlooking the stars. "Captain," Ji Woo greeted him. "Please sit down. There's someone I'd like you to meet." A slender blue-skinned alien rose from a chair in the corner. He had large, dark eyes and delicate features. "This is Da, an Andorian historian," Ji Woo said. "He's been studying some concerning developments." Day bowed slightly. "Captain Ta Jin, I've been looking forward to meeting you." Da has been monitoring communications from the Vora hegemony, Ji Woo explained. "The news isn't good." Da placed a data crystal on Ji Woo's desk, and a holographic star map appeared above it. Several systems on the outer rim were highlighted in red. "The Vora have been building up forces along these borders," Da said. "Our intelligence suggests they are planning expansion into neutral territories." "War?" Ta Jin asked. "Not officially," Ji Woo said. "But yes, that's what we're afraid of. The Vora haven't been part of the alliance for 50 years. They believe strength is the only law that matters." Day pulled out an ancient-looking book bound in some kind of leather. "I've been researching historical conflicts. The Vora expansion pattern matches several previous aggressors. But what's most interesting is what I found about humans." He opened the book carefully. "This text is from the ancient archives, written by the Zun, a species that died out 10,000 years ago. They describe encountering beings very similar to humans in a neighboring galaxy." "That's impossible," Ta Jin said. "Humans never left the Milky Way until 200 years ago." "Perhaps not these humans," Da said, "but beings very like you." The Zun wrote, "They appear weak, until they are not. They bend, but never break. Their true strength emerges only in darkness, and those who mistake their patience for weakness do not survive to regret it." A chill ran down Ta Jin's spine. "You believe this refers to humans, or beings like us?" "The description is too specific to ignore," Da said. "And there's more. The Academy training simulations have been modified recently. Did you notice anything unusual during crisis response training?" Ta Jin thought back to the emergency drills from the previous day. "The instructors were watching the humans very closely. I thought they were checking if we were cheating somehow." "They weren't looking for cheating," Ji Woo said. "They were studying your reactions, your stress responses, your adaptation speed." "But why?" Dag closed his book. "Because the Vora have specifically mentioned humans in their communications. Despite your low-strength ranking, they see you as the primary threat." "That makes no sense," Ta Jin said. "The Krell could crush us easily." "In a direct, short confrontation, yes," Da agreed. "But the Vora aren't planning a short conflict. They're planning a long, drawn-out war of attrition. And according to my research, that's where humans become truly dangerous." Ta Jin looked from Da to Ji Woo. "What does this mean for us?" "It means," Ji Woo said gravely, "that our strategy of sitting quietly at the back may soon be tested. Intelligence reports indicate the Vora are targeting human settlements first in their expansion plans. Not Krell, not Vex, humans." "But that's—" A loud alarm suddenly cut through the air, its wailing sound echoing through the academy. "Emergency stations," announced a calm voice over the speakers. "This is not a drill. All personnel report to designated safety areas immediately." Ta Jin looked at Ji Woo, whose face had gone completely still. "It's beginning," she said. The emergency alarm continued to wail as Ta Jin followed Ji Woo and Da through the crowded hallways. Students and staff from all species rushed toward safety zones, some moving with panic, others with practiced calm. "Is this a Vora attack?" Ta Jin asked, having to raise his voice over the noise. "Unlikely," Jiwoo replied. "The academy is too well protected. More likely a system failure or—" A voice came over the speakers. "Attention all personnel. Environmental systems failing in sectors 3 through 7. Oxygen levels dropping. Gravity fluctuations detected. This is not a drill." The crowd around them grew more chaotic. A large Krell pushed past them, nearly knocking Dai over. Ta Jin steadied the Andorian with a firm hand. "Observation Deck 4 is closest," Jiwoo said. "We should gather there." When they arrived at the deck, it was already filling with people from various species. The Krell had formed a protective circle, their massive bodies creating a living wall. Other species grouped together by kind, looking frightened or confused. Suddenly, the lights went out. Emergency lighting came on, casting everything in a dim red glow. The artificial gravity shifted, becoming lighter, causing several beings to float slightly off the ground. "Communications are down," someone shouted. "We can't reach central control." Ta Jin looked around, noting the reactions of different species. The Krell maintained their defensive formation, but seemed unsure what to do next. The Vex were arguing among themselves. The smaller species huddled in corners, some crying out in fear. Then he noticed something interesting. The humans in the room were changing. Their faces became calmer, more focused. They moved with purpose, checking on others, gathering information, finding supplies. Sung Ho appeared at Ta Jin's side. "Standard emergency protocol isn't working," he said quietly. "Life support is failing faster than expected." "What do we do?" Ta Jin asked. "Watch," Sung Ho replied. Across the room, Hana had climbed onto a table. "Everyone," she called out. Her voice wasn't particularly loud, but something in her tone made people listen. "We need to work together. The Krell, your strength is needed to manually override the emergency doors. 3 doors need to be sealed to prevent further oxygen loss." The Krell leader looked surprised at being addressed, but nodded. "Vex, your natural night vision is crucial. Form search teams with the Andorians to find anyone trapped in the dark sections." The Vex stopped arguing and began organizing themselves. "Everyone with technical skills, follow Jun over there. He's setting up a way to bypass the failed communication system." Ta Jin watched in amazement as the chaos transformed into coordinated action. The humans weren't shouting or forcing others to listen. They were simply filling the leadership void with calm, clear direction. Jiwoo appeared beside him. "Notice anything?" she asked. "The humans," Ta Jin said. "They're different." "This is what we do," she said. "In real emergencies, human biology changes. Our focus sharpens. Our strength increases. Our minds work faster. It's called the crisis response." A loud bang shook the deck as a pressure door slammed shut automatically. The already dim lights flickered. "Come with me," Jiwoo said. "We need to reach the secondary control room." As they moved through the darkened corridors, Ta Jin saw more humans in action. A woman half the size of a Krell was helping move a fallen beam. An older man was calmly treating injuries with surprising skill. None of them seemed frightened, just intensely focused. "I've never felt like this before," Ta Jin admitted. His heart was beating fast, but his mind was clear. He felt strong, alert, ready. "You're experiencing it too," Jiwoo said. "Your body thinks this is life or death. In a way, all of human history has prepared us for moments like this." They reached a sealed door marked Secondary Control, authorized personnel only. "Now," Jiwoo said, "let me show you why the Vora fear humans more than the Krell." Jiwoo placed her hand on the scanner beside the door. It flashed green, and the heavy door slid open. Inside, the secondary control room was dimly lit by emergency lighting. Several humans were already there, working at different stations. Among them was a tall woman with streaks of silver in her dark hair. "Captain Ta Jin, Meet Min, senior researcher at the Academy, Jiwoo said. Min nodded briefly, her eyes never leaving the screens in front of her. Ambassador. Good, you're here. We have 18 minutes before life support fails completely in the East Wing. Is this a real emergency or another test? Ta Jin asked. Both, Min replied. It began as a standard simulation, but something went wrong. The safety protocols failed. This is now a genuine crisis. Ta Jin looked around the room. Every human was working with intense focus, their movements quick and precise. No wasted motion, no panic. Why aren't there any other species here? He asked. This room is officially for maintenance only, Jiwoo explained. But we've made sure humans are assigned to all critical systems throughout the Academy. Just in case. Min brought up a large display showing the station's systems. The main problem is here, she said, pointing to a flashing red section. Environmental Control Hub. We need to restart it manually, but the access corridor is damaged. The Krell could break through, Ta Jin suggested. Too risky, Min said. The corridor walls contain pressure seals. Break those, and we lose what little atmosphere remains in that section. Jiwoo turned to Ta Jin. This is where human adaptability becomes crucial. We need someone who can navigate a tight space, withstand low oxygen for 10 minutes, and have the technical skills to restart the system. I can do it, a voice said. Ta Jin turned to see Hana enter the room. Min nodded. Preparation is already underway. Sung Ho is bringing the equipment. As if on cue, Sung Ho arrived with a small pack. Oxygen injections, he explained, handing a set of small devices to Hana. Each one gives you about 3 minutes of oxygen directly in your bloodstream. Dangerous for most species, but humans can handle it. Ta Jin watched as Hana prepared, impressed by her calm efficiency. While we wait, Jiwoo said to Ta Jin, let me explain what you're seeing. This is why the Vora fear us. She gestured to a screen showing vital signs of various beings throughout the Academy. Look at the difference between species under stress. The data was clear. The larger, stronger species showed increased stress hormones, elevated heart rates, and signs of impaired decision-making. The human readings were different, showing focus chemicals, pain suppressors, and enhanced brain activity. When most species face danger, their bodies prepare to fight or run, Min explained, joining them. When humans face danger, our bodies prepare to solve problems. It's called hysterical strength, the ability to override normal physical limitations during crisis. The Krell can lift more weight, Jiwoo added, but they tire quickly. Humans can work at 70% capacity for days with minimal rest. In a short battle, we would lose. In a prolonged crisis, we become stronger while others weaken. Ta Jin finished, understanding dawning. Min nodded. Exactly. The Academy has been studying this for decades. Most species don't understand why it happens, but they've observed it. The Vora have studied us most carefully, and they fear what they've seen, Jiwoo said. Hana approached, fully equipped and ready. I'm heading out. Wish me luck. As she left, Ta Jin turned back to the screens. So all this time, sitting at the back, accepting the low rankings. A strategic choice, Jiwoo confirmed. Why reveal your strengths when they only show themselves in crisis? Better to be underestimated. Humans are best at being exactly what we need to be when we need to be it, Min said. Not always the strongest, but always the most adaptable. Suddenly, alarms blared again. Incoming transmission, a technician called out. It's from the Vora hegemony. The room went silent as a message appeared on the main screen. This is Commander Vex of the Vora hegemony, a harsh voice announced. Your emergency is no accident. Consider it the first test of many. We will see what you are truly made of. Jiwoo's face hardened. And so it begins. The Academy was on high alert for the next week. Security patrols doubled, and battle cruisers from the Alliance fleet took positions around the station. Everyone waited for the Vora to make their next move. Tajin sat in a briefing room with representatives from various species. The mood was tense. At the front of the room, a large Krell general named Gorn was speaking. The Vora have attacked 3 outposts along the outer rim, Gorn announced, his voice deep and powerful. The Alliance fleet has engaged them near the Scorpius sector. Casualties? Asked a Vex commander. Heavy, Gorn replied. The Vora struck without warning. 2 colonies completely destroyed. Tajin noticed Ji Wu and other human diplomats exchanging glances. Something wasn't right. After the meeting, Tajin followed Ji Wu to her office. Sung Ho and Min were already there, along with a human military officer he didn't recognize. The Vora aren't following their usual attack pattern, the officer said without introduction. They're avoiding direct confrontation with the Krell battle groups. What are they targeting? Tajin asked. Ji Wu wrought up a star map. Communications relays, supply depots, medical stations. They're cutting off support systems rather than engaging fleet to fleet. A war of attrition, Sung Ho said, just as we feared. The Alliance is responding with standard tactics, Min added, sending in the Krell shock troops, Vex attack squadrons. But the Vora are simply retreating, then striking elsewhere. How are the frontline species holding up? Tajin asked. Min displayed a chart showing combat effectiveness over time. Not well. The Krell are designed for short, powerful engagements. Their stamina is failing. The Vex are becoming erratic as the conflict extends beyond their usual battle patterns. And the human units? Tajin asked. Improving, Ji Wu said simply. With each day, their response times get better. Their coordination improves. They're adapting to Vora tactics. The Alliance leadership doesn't understand what's happening. Sung Ho said. They keep sending in the strongest species, expecting different results. A communication alert sounded. Ji Wu accepted the call, and a hologram appeared of a human captain. Her uniform was dirty, and she looked tired but alert. Ambassador, the captain said. The situation at Outpost 17 has changed. The Vora destroyed our main defenses, but we've reorganized. Mixed species units under human command have retaken the North sector. We're holding. Casualties? Ji Wu asked. Heavy among the Krell and Vex units. Minimal among the human-led teams. Document everything, Ji Wu instructed. We'll need the data. After the call ended, Tajin looked at Ji Wu. The Alliance isn't using humans effectively, are they? No, she replied. They still think the strongest should lead the fight. That will change soon, the military officer said. The Alliance High Command has called an emergency meeting. The Krell generals can't explain why their forces are faltering while human units are succeeding. Sung Ho smiled slightly. Perhaps it's time to move from the back of the room. 3 days later, Tajin stood with Ji Wu in the Academy's Grand Hall. The room was packed with representatives from all Alliance species. For the first time, humans were not seated at the back. Instead, they stood on the main platform. Fleet Admiral Parker, the highest-ranking human in the Alliance military, addressed the gathering. The Vora understood something about us that we ourselves forgot, she said. Strength is not just about power, it's about endurance, adaptation, the ability to keep fighting when others fall. She brought up footage from the front lines showing human-led units in action. They weren't the biggest or strongest, but they moved with coordination and purpose that the other units lacked. For too long, we've accepted our place at the bottom of the strength hierarchy, Parker continued. But now, we propose a new approach, Operation Back Row. The room filled with murmurs as the name was translated across species. Sometimes, Parker said, looking directly at the Krell delegation, the real strength is knowing when to step back and when to step forward. 2 weeks after Admiral Parker's announcement, Tajin found himself on the bridge of the Alliance cruiser Resilience. He had been assigned as liaison officer to a mixed-species task force implementing Operation Back Row. The ship's captain, a woman named Sue, stood at the command console. Unlike most Alliance vessels, this one had a human captain with a crew from 12 different species. "Status report," Captain Sue ordered. A Vex officer responded. "Vora fleet detected in the Cygnus sector. 3 heavy cruisers, 5 attack ships. They're hunting our supply convoy," said Tajin. Captain Sue nodded. "That's what they expect us to believe." She turned to her communications officer, a tall Andorian. "Send the signal." Tajin watched as the plan unfolded. For weeks, the Alliance had fought the Vora using traditional tactics, sending powerful ships to confront them directly. And for weeks, they had lost. But Operation Back Row was different. Krell battle group sending distress signal as planned. The Andorian reported. "Vora ships are changing course to attack." Sue smiled. "They think they found a wounded predator. They don't realize they're walking into a trap." On the main screen, Tajin could see the Vora ships approaching what appeared to be a damaged Krell cruiser. But it wasn't damage, it was bait. "All ships, execute pattern endurance," Sue ordered. From hidden positions around the sector, 12 smaller Alliance ships appeared. They didn't attack directly. Instead, they began a complex dance of movements, separating the Vora ships, cutting off their escape routes, forcing them to burn fuel in repeated course corrections. "They're trying to regroup," the tactical officer reported. "Don't let them," Sue said calmly. "Continue harassment patterns. We don't need to destroy them. We just need to exhaust them." Hour after hour, the battle continued. It wasn't like any battle Tajin had seen before. The Alliance ships didn't try to overpower the enemy. They took turns, rotating fresh crews while forcing the Vora to remain at full alert. "This is what humans do best," Sung Ho said, appearing beside Tajin. He had joined the mission as an advisor. "We wear down stronger opponents. We outlast them." By the 18th hour, the difference was clear. The Vora ships' movements were becoming sluggish, their reactions slower. The crews were exhausted. "Now," Captain Sue ordered. On her command, the Alliance ships moved in together. The trap closed. Within 30 minutes, all Vora ships had surrendered. "Minimal casualties on both sides," reported the tactical officer. "Mission successful." Similar reports came in from across the front. Operation Back Row was working. Human-led units using endurance tactics were systematically exhausting Vora forces, then capturing them with minimal bloodshed. Later, in the ship's briefing room, Tajin listened as Captain Sue explained their success to a group of Alliance officers, including several skeptical Krell. "The Vora expected us to fight like you," she told the Krell general, "with direct power and aggression. When we didn't, they had no response." "This is not honorable combat," the Krell objected. "Perhaps not by your standards," Sue replied. "But it saves lives on both sides. And it works." One of the Krell officers, younger than the others, leaned forward. "How did humans develop these tactics?" "Our entire evolutionary history," Sue explained. "Humans weren't the strongest species on our planet. We couldn't outfight the predators, so we learned to outlast them, to think differently, to adapt." She displayed a map showing the progress of Operation Back Row. The Vora were retreating on all fronts. "We don't excel at being the strongest," she said. "We excel at overcoming the strongest." The young Krell looked thoughtful. "This is why humans always sit at the back during Academy gatherings." Sung Ho smiled. "The back of the room gives you the best view of everyone else, and the clearest path to the exit when needed." As the briefing ended, Tajin realized something important. Humans had never really been at the bottom of the galactic hierarchy. They had simply been biding their time, watching, learning, waiting for the moment when their unique strengths would be needed. The Vora had made a critical mistake. They had awakened what the ancient texts had warned about: humanity's true potential. 6 months after Operation Back Row began, the Vora hegemony surrendered. Their forces, designed for quick victories over physically superior opponents, had no answer for the human strategy of persistent pressure and adaptive tactics. Ta Jin stood in the Great Hall of the Galactic Academy once more. The room had been rebuilt after the damage from the Vora's initial attack. But it wasn't the only thing that had changed. The seating arrangement was different. No longer were species grouped by their physical strength. Instead, circular tables filled the room, with representatives from different species sitting together. "Quite a change," Hannah said, joining him. She had been promoted after her heroic actions during the crisis. "I still can't believe how quickly everything changed," Ta Jin replied. "Not that quickly," said Sung Ho, approaching them. "Humans spent 200 years sitting at the back, watching and waiting. The change only seems sudden to you because you just got here." Academy Headmaster Gorv, the large Krell who had once proudly announced his species' top ranking, stepped onto the stage. The room quieted. "Today marks a new chapter for the Galactic Alliance," Gorv announced. "The strength assessment has been replaced with the capability evaluation. No longer will we rank species based solely on physical power." Murmurs of approval spread through the crowd. Ta Jin noticed many of the previously top-ranked species looked uncomfortable, while formerly lower-ranked beings seemed pleased. "The Vora conflict taught us an important lesson," Gorv continued. "True strength takes many forms. Endurance, adaptability, innovation under pressure. These qualities saved our alliance." Jiwoo joined their small group, now wearing the insignia of the Alliance High Council. "The Krell didn't give up their old views easily," she said quietly. "But even they couldn't argue with the results." "Will humans still sit at the back?" Ta Jin asked. Jiwoo smiled. "Some habits are hard to break. Many still prefer it. Old instincts run deep." Da, the Andorian historian, approached with an ancient text in his hands. "I found more references to human-like beings in the ancient archives," he said excitedly. "The records suggest they were known as the patient ones who would observe from shadows until the moment to act arrived." "That sounds familiar," Sung Ho said with a smile. After the ceremony, Ta Jin found himself in a classroom with new academy students. As an instructor now, he watched with interest as the young beings chose their seats. A young Krell student sat in the back row. This was unusual. Krell always preferred to be front and center. "May I ask why you chose that seat?" Ta Jin inquired. The young Krell looked up. "My battle father served with humans during the war. He said they taught him that the back gives you the best view of everyone else in the room." "Is that true?" Ta Jin smiled. "It's one of many human perspectives. We believe in seeing the whole picture before acting." "I want to learn how humans think," the Krell said earnestly. "Your species isn't physically impressive, but you defeated the Vora when our strength could not." "We didn't defeat them alone," Ta Jin corrected. "The Alliance did, by finally using all its diverse strengths together." Later, Ta Jin met with an incoming group of human diplomats. One young woman asked the question he had once wondered himself. "Sir, why did humans accept the lowest ranking for so long? Why did we always sit at the back?" Ta Jin thought about everything he had learned. "The back of the room gives you 3 advantages," he explained. "You can see everyone else. Nobody pays much attention to you. And you always know where the exits are." He looked around at their young faces. Humans learned long ago that it's often not the strongest who survive, but those who understand when to be seen, when to wait, and when to act. Sometimes, the greatest strength is patience. As the new students filed out, Ta Jin took a seat in the back row of the empty classroom. From here, he could see everything. He smiled to himself, understanding at last the wisdom of his species' long game. Sometimes, the best position isn't at the top of the hierarchy, but exactly where others least expect to find strength.